et j'ai fait une promenade dans la jungle. En heure à promenade, je sais un câble d'électricité, je demande où d'où vient, où va. Et je marche avec les câbles pour découvrir dont il va. Et j'arrive à un village, un petit village, et le câble va dans une maison seulement, une maison, tous les câbles dans la jungle. Et je vais voir dans les maisons, il y a des jeunes qui jouent avec la PlayStation 2. Et le câble a été seulement pour ça.
Les téléphones portables, comment vous appelez ça, les plaquettes? Non, les tablettes. Vous voyez, j'en perds mon latin. Il y en a tellement. Ce sont des machines à écran et qui démultiplient l'ancienne machine à écran qui est la télévision. Ouais. Et ces machines à écran, non seulement elles nous bombardent d'images, que j'appelle des images écrans, mais elles sont elles-mêmes des produits qui mobilisent le désir, qui suscitent le désir, qui excitent le désir. Et leur sophistication en fait même un objet en soi, c'est-à-dire que dont la valeur tient même rien qu'à posséder l'objet, au-delà même de son utilité. C'est-à-dire que ces objets, ces machines à écran deviennent des fétiches. Nous sommes des possessions, nous sommes des colonies des objets et donc des fétiches. Et ces fétiches sont des fétiches qui relèvent de ce monde digital. Donc c'est cette colonisation par des machines à écran que j'appelle la colonisation ou l'impérialisme post-colonial. Alors, d'autres phénomènes m'ont amené à penser l'afrodystopie parce que finalement, ce dont je parle, c'est d'afrodystopie. Vous voyez bien que ce n'est pas aussi simple que ça de réduire l'afrodystopie à l'Afrique. Elle est relationnelle. Elle occupe un espace qui se situe entre l'Afrique et l'Occident. Et qu'il y a des colonisés par des images écrans qui sont des marchandises, qui sont des fétiches. Et comme tout fétiche produit l'indiscernabilité du réel et de l'irréel, eh bien, nous sommes constamment amenés par les séductions des écrans à ne pas distinguer exactement ce qui se passe. Surtout que ces machines que nous désirons, dont nous ne pouvons même plus nous passer, parce que, voyez-vous, j'aurais bien voulu prendre du papier pour lire ce que je suis en train de lire. Mais je suis là, plongé dans cette machine. Je pense qu'elle est plus intéressante pour moi pour dire ce que j'ai à dire. Ça circule, c'est fluide, c'est souple. Ce n'est pas aussi dur que le papier. Et cette facilité que nous offrent les machines à écran, ces machines lumineuses, ces machines qui nous colonisent tous et qui nous séduisent, et notamment en Afrique. Et Oulimata venait de raconter comment ce qui avait été dit au départ finalement s'est démenti et que les Africains sont entrés dans le monde des éblouissements, me pose véritablement un problème, le problème de... C'est vrai que nous sommes tous pris dans le mouvement, c'est vrai que nous sommes tous pris dans l'utopie, mais moi je parle en termes de dystopie parce qu'il reste malgré tout des différences entre le monde africain et le monde occidental.
The specificity of technology is to have things functioning without you needing to sort of break your head, why is it functioning? Then technology is not colonizing the life world, but technology is the purest expression of the life world. You don't want to, every time you switch on the TV, sort of try to understand how this works. And in most cases, you won't even be able. And the same for our mobile phones. few of us can really explain what happens. And this is exactly the advantage. I don't want to do that, and you also probably don't want to do that every time you call. And also, you don't want every time your mobile phone rings, get a fear and ask, oh, what happened? You just want to immediately, without thinking, know what it is about. And in that sense, life, world, and technology is the same. And now the problem is with decolonizing technology is that in many parts of the global south, this naturalness of functioning technology is permanently disturbed because things break down. There is a power cut, or the road is not functioning, or the car is breaking down, or there is a lack of petrol. And this permanent interruptions, they do something which you don't experience so often in a sort of industrialized, so-called developed country where the disturbances are rare. And in other words, things are being brought to your attention regularly. And also in that sense, it's in fact, cynically speaking, sociologically much more interesting to look at technologies in places where there are all these interruptions.
Right. Well, in talking to entrepreneurs themselves and investors, generally people who participate in the digital entrepreneurship ecology, there's always this sense that our production, what we're producing and how we use digital technologies is sort of rudimentary and not yet cutting edge or disruptive in some way. And for me, it recalled that idea that high culture was something that was elsewhere and what Africans did and was very use-oriented. So even our art had a use and somehow that was bad. And you know, when other art forms didn't really have use, but they still had meaning and that was celebrated. So in terms of this workshop, I wanted to draw that analogy out and learn from the art world how they had grappled with that and how they had managed to turn African art and its narrative into something that has value and is considered valuable, and whether that was an approach that technologists could also use. And you know, now in this current climate where the internet is seeming like a terrible place that's producing all these horrors, the question even becomes of why use it at all. You hear about Cambridge Analytica and all these other, you know, people trying to influence elections in other places. So now I guess that opens up the opportunity to ask, do we need to bridge this divide? And if we do, where should the bridge be built first on both sides? You know, that sort of thing. Before it was just a foregone conclusion that Africans should use the internet in these particular ways. And from my experience, I think I would say that people know what they need and what they want. And if it is useful to them and appropriate to them, then that is good enough. And it doesn't need to be anything more than it is. Yeah.
Architecture of the internet itself, like physically, the materiality of all our data is layered onto colonial roots, onto roots of pain. So we have all of the information that travels colonial roots, you know. So what does this mean to this information? What does it mean to the technology that we use every single day? You know? So yeah, it's very striking as an image for me. So I guess maybe it's asking for us even more of a responsibility to maybe be agent to heal those roots, you know, and to transform those like roots of pain from roots of celebration, you know. I don't know how. I mean, we need to do like water blessings, you know, to clear the memory of those waters. And it's also this relationship between technology, information technology, and water. So in many African spiritual traditions, water is an interface for communication from the material world to the spiritual world, through like libation, or like water spirits, like Mami Wata, or Mamondilo, or there's water snakes, there's many spirits inhabiting our waters, and those spirits, they were agents of communication. They were bringing messages to people through visions, or through, they were channels of communication. So it's interesting to me that today our global communication network also uses water and also traverses the same space.
There's no question that the nature of what we can talk about as magic or juju has been cast through a sort of oppositional relationship today, and primarily versus religion or versus science. So, but I think that this sort of narrative that one religion is right and all other religions are wrong, or that one particular way of scientific thinking or form of scientific knowledge is right and all other forms of knowledge are wrong, has contributed to this, because the idea then is that, well, this is right, the other thing must be wrong. And when I say it's a sort of false positive, is because I would posit that in many people's minds and many Africans' minds, it is not an either or, it is a both and that's why people like Abdul Malik talk about, African cities are a place where they're a platform for living elsewhere, right? That people are both of their tribe and of their country, or of their multiple tribes or multiple countries or multiple religions. So there's a sense that things can be syncretic, where other people would say that's not possible. Part of the power and the strength of sort of magical understanding or juju or African electronics is that they're not false in their positivity. That there's an understanding that these gods or some god can give you great wealth or great power, but it may lead to some kind of blood sacrifice that will lead to your undoing, right? There's an awareness that if you make these kinds of bargains, and you said it's maybe like a Faustian bargain as well or something, that these things, that there's a trade-off. And I think that there's a power in that, because it makes you understand that there's no perfect solution, there's no easy win. Whereas in the sort of world of capitalism, the idea is that more money is always just good, there's no bad side. That if you follow this god, everything will be perfect. You will never be motivated to religious violence, right? These false positives suggest that something can be universal and true and all-powerful with no downside, with no sort of opposite condition. And I think that not to sort of simplify the complexity of African electronics or of juju is not to say that it's simple and easy and we can just set up, deploy it everywhere and make everything perfect. No, it's that life is extremely complicated and multi-layered and sort of multifarious and multifaceted, that it's not easily reducible to anything. And I think that's part of the power of that magic.
The importance of looking at ancient knowledge, not losing it, right? It's been built like over 1,000 years. And it's gone through trial and error like for such a long time. And why like shifting from one model to another without like mixing them or understanding what one and the other do together?
Artificial intelligence is about the attempt to know things which are inaccessible to other procedures of knowledge production. In other words, it comes close to divination. So this split between, on the one hand, you have science, and on the other hand, you have religion and divination is somehow blurred again. And this is exactly through digital technologies and the so-called deep learning.
Again, now in the West, everyone's talking about circular economy, or spiral economy, or even green economy. But this idea that suddenly everyone is rediscovering the importance of cycles, when through what we've encountered in Agbogbloshie, we've been reminded that what people are doing with e-scrap or sort of electronic materials is not fundamentally different from all the other materials being processed in the scrapyard. It's just a species of material that people, particularly in the international community, are sort of fascinated by. But it's not unique or special. Maybe it's valuable, even in that space, and maybe it's not, but it's not special or different in that sense, is that it's a recognition that everything must be unmade and remade, and someone has to do that. And I think that that's, in our conversation, I think one of the things that we've been really inspired by, because again, we're not initiated at these higher levels, but when you read even like the book that the first president of Kenya wrote, when he talks about how in, I think maybe Kikuyu culture that that everyone traditionally would keep their metal, their iron. And when you have a hoe or a cutlass or a sword, and these things no longer were sharp, you never just threw them away. You kept them a pile of mangled metal, and then at a certain point you would take that metal to the blacksmith, and he would melt it down and make you a new hoe or a new cutlass or a new machete. So this idea that materials had value and you maintain them is also maybe the same thing that in so many towns and communities in West Africa, people will have in the back of their house a place where they throw their leftover food. And maybe some animals will eat some, but the rest of it goes down and it feeds the roots of a plantain, and it creates compost and black soil, and it fertilizes this plantain that provides food. And when you need to do something, you have this, you're connected to the cycles of things. So that, I think, was a very powerful reminder for us that if we want to talk about propelling Africa into a future of innovation and perfection and everything is wonderful and utopian, we miss the point if we don't start at the place where things are being unmade. If we focus on giving a laptop in the hands of every child in Africa, and we don't think about where does that laptop go when it doesn't work anymore, and what can we build out of the things that are here already, we will never innovate.
C'est vrai qu'aujourd'hui, les déchets informatiques sont pratiquement une ressource naturelle en Afrique parce que l'Occident envoie ces déchets chez nous. Et donc, on s'est lancé dans ce projet et 8 mois après, on accouchait d'une imprimante 3D qui est faite avec des déchets informatiques, ce qui n'est pas complètement une prouesse parce que les gens ont analysé ça comme une prouesse, en se disant que faire des choses avec des déchets, ça doit être compliqué. En vrai, non, parce que le déchet informatique a le potentiel qui est qu'il a déjà eu une première vie, et donc il a encore les traces de cette première vie-là. Donc faire un projet avec du déchet informatique, ce n'est pas commencer à partir de zéro. Il suffit juste d'avoir de la sagacité et de pouvoir détourner ce qui est là de son usage précédent et d'utiliser le potentiel qu'il a pour pouvoir monter un deuxième projet. Karl Marx disait que les inégalités entre les de classe seraient aplanies le jour où tout le monde serait propriétaire des outils de production. Et que s'il y a des pauvres et des riches, c'est parce qu'il y a des riches qui possèdent les outils et des pauvres qui sont obligés de travailler pour eux pour compte salaire. L'imprimante 3D réalise un peu cette démocratie-là parce que c'est un outil de production qui tient sur une table et dont les plans sont disponibles en ligne. Et donc, normalement, chacun peut aujourd'hui produire à sa mesure, à son échelle, etc. Et donc, si on suit la prophétie de Marx, on devrait tendre vers une société plus égalitaire grâce à l'impression 3D.
I think it's a technology of sharing, open technology for sharing, for being appropriated, being redistributed, being shared, and a movement for non-aligned technology is a movement that does not just take the box and uses it. Opens, study what's inside, change. A non-aligned technology is a technology that can be repaired, that can be translated. And so I think that the open source and free software movement is a big example. And I think that the work that Kër Thiosanne is doing here in Dakar is a big example. These are all heritage. It's not born yesterday. This is 15, 20 years of reasoning and understanding that there is an alternative possible, that is not aligned, that is not a totalitarian movement, it's not a capitalist free market, it's a third way. That's non-aligned, it's the third way.
Ouais, tout ce qui est non aligné fait sens, puisque l'histoire même de la production de valeur est toujours une histoire de frottement et de refus de rentrer dans ce qui peut être le commun, l'entendu par tous, etc., etc. Et je pense que cette posture-là a beaucoup plus de sens aujourd'hui et dans cette révolution digitale, parce que la révolution digitale a certes du potentiel, mais a aussi des enjeux qui sont énormes. Et l'Afrique, me semble-t-il, doit en quelque sorte apporter un point de vue qui lui est propre. Je pense même que c'est son devoir, en un sens, de civiliser cette révolution digitale et donc de développer des postures, des technologies, des façons de faire qui peuvent paraître un peu à la marge et qui critiquent le mouvement global qui se met en place.